In a stunning turn of events that has sent shockwaves through the mining industry and captivated reality TV audiences around the globe, renowned gold miners Tony Beets and his son Mike Beets, stars of the popular Discovery Channel series Gold Rush, have been sentenced to life in prison. The verdict, handed down yesterday in a crowded courtroom in the Yukon Territory, concludes what many are calling the most significant criminal case ever to arise from the world of reality TV mining. The father and son, both known for their thick Dutch accents, colorful language, and aggressive approach to mining, were found guilty on several serious charges. These included large-scale environmental violations, claim jumping, falsifying gold yields, and, according to prosecutors, orchestrating a criminal conspiracy unparalleled in the history of modern mining. Their once celebrated Paradise Hill site, frequently featured as a high-yield gold mine on television, has now been exposed as the nerve center of what authorities describe as a widespread operation rooted in fraud and environmental destruction. The downfall of the Beets family began 3 years ago when fellow miner Parker Schnabel, who had been mentored by Tony, alerted authorities after witnessing questionable mining practices near his own claims. What initially appeared to be a routine concern soon ballooned into a full-scale investigation, uncovering massive breaches of environmental regulations, the extent of which surpassed anything previously seen in the Klondike. Lead prosecutor Catherine White commented, "What we discovered went far beyond simply cutting corners for profit. The evidence detailed a calculated and ongoing effort to flout nearly every environmental protection law in place, with resulting damage that experts believe will require decades to repair." As Judge Robert Tamain delivered the sentence, the courtroom remained hushed. Speaking in a firm yet solemn tone, he addressed the accused, Mr. Beets and son, after careful review of the compelling evidence and the jury's unanimous verdict. This court concludes that the magnitude and systematic nature of your crimes, along with your lack of remorse, leaves no choice but to impose the harshest penalty available. You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Tony Beets, 75, who gained fame for his Viking-like image and unfiltered commands, stood silently as the sentence was read. His signature bravado seemed to falter only when his 35-year-old son Mike received the same life sentence. Mike, who had taken on greater leadership of the family business in recent years, appeared visibly shaken as the implications of the ruling sank in. The 11-week trial brought an eerie mix of courtroom drama and television familiarity, with many recognizable faces from Gold Rush appearing as witnesses. Among the most damaging accounts were those from former Beets employees who testified that they were ordered to carry out environmentally harmful operations when the cameras weren't filming. One of the most pivotal testimonies came from Rick Ness, another miner featured on the show who had previously worked with both the Beets family and Parker Schnabel. He recounted conversations he overheard between Tony and Mike that hinted at what prosecutors called a dual mining strategy: respectable, regulated work for the cameras and illegal, destructive operations behind the scenes. Tony always used to say there's TV mining and there's real mining, Ness told the court, clearly uncomfortable as he testified against his former colleagues. He made it very clear which practices were never to be caught on film and made sure we knew what would happen if we talked about them. Outside the mining crew, perhaps the most shocking testimony came from Minnie Beets, Tony's wife of over 40 years and the family's longtime bookkeeper. In a surprising turn of events, Minnie agreed to testify against both her husband and son in exchange for immunity. She provided detailed financial records that revealed a consistent pattern of underreporting gold production, as well as sophisticated methods of selling unrecorded gold through black market channels. Her decision to cooperate with prosecutors has reportedly caused a rift within the Beets family. Daughters Monica and Bianca Beets publicly supported their mother, though they also expressed shock and sadness at the evidence presented against their father and brother. Both women attended the court proceedings for the verdict but chose not to speak to the press, instead exiting the courthouse through a private route. Parker Schnabel, whose report initially triggered the investigation, testified over the course of 3 days. He spoke about what he witnessed while working claims next to the Beets mining operation. The 30-year-old mining expert, who began on the show as a teenager under the guidance of his grandfather, described several occasions when he saw suspicious activity occurring at night on Beets-controlled land. "I respected Tony. He taught me a lot in my early days, Schnabel said, keeping steady eye contact with his former mentor. But over time I noticed things that didn't line up with legal mining practices. When water that should have been clear turned black with contaminants at 3 a.m. and tests showed mercury and other chemicals not used in lawful operations, I felt obligated to report it. Courtroom tensions escalated with the presence of numerous Discovery Channel producers and crew members, many of whom were subpoenaed to testify about what they observed while filming the series. Some producers claimed ignorance of any illegal activity, while others admitted they had suspicions but failed to act, fearing it would jeopardize the show's success. Executive producer Christo Doyle, who regularly appears on the show's companion programs, stated that the production team followed strict environmental compliance protocols during filming. However, he acknowledged that their visibility was limited during the significant off-camera periods. Gold Rush only captures about 15% of the actual mining season on film, Doyle said during cross-examination. We had no way to monitor what occurred during the other 85%. We depended on our miners' honesty and their adherence to local regulations. This case has sparked serious debate about the oversight of reality TV productions. Critics argue that the profit-driven nature of such shows can foster environments where illegal actions go unchecked due to minimal scrutiny. Discovery Channel released a statement expressing its shock at the outcome and denying any prior knowledge of unlawful activities. Fred Lewis, a military veteran who joined the show in later seasons, also gave compelling testimony. He recounted an unsettling conversation with Tony Beets at a rare cast gathering. Tony had been drinking and started boasting about how environmental regulations didn't apply to him because he knew how to get around them, Lewis said. At the time, I thought it was just part of his on-screen bravado. I never imagined how extensive the situation really was. The prosecution introduced a wide array of environmental evidence, including satellite images taken before and after the Beets operation began mining. These images revealed large-scale, unauthorized alterations to waterways and the destruction of protected wetlands. Environmental experts testified that certain areas showed contamination from mercury and other heavy metals at levels exceeding legal limits by more than 200 times. Todd Hoffman, a former cast member who left the show to pursue other projects, was called by the defense as a character witness. However, this move backfired when prosecutors used the opportunity to question him about his past disputes with Tony Beets. Yes, Tony and I didn't always see eye to eye, Hoffman admitted. He criticized my operation as amateur and inefficient. In hindsight, maybe that was because I was trying to follow regulations, whereas he clearly wasn't held back by them. The trial escalated dramatically when new evidence suggested that the Beets crew had trespassed on mining claims belonging to other cast members, illegally extracting gold from land they didn't own. Dave Turan, who now leads his own spin-off Gold Rush, Dave Turan's Lost Mine, testified about discovering strange excavation activity near the borders of a claim he worked years earlier. I couldn't prove anything at the time, but the numbers didn't make sense, he said. The gold we expected to find wasn't there, as if someone else had already mined it. Now I know why. Lead defense attorney Jonathan Blackwood argued that the case was an example of selective prosecution, driven by envy of the Beets family's success and Tony's prominent TV persona. He claimed that prosecutors had confused the fictionalized character seen on television with the real businessman. My client is a television personality, not a criminal, Blackwood said during his closing remarks. Authorities have overreached, letting media portrayals cloud their judgment of the mining industry's realities. This argument quickly unraveled when the prosecution played secretly recorded conversations between Tony and his son Mike in which they discussed tactics to hide environmental violations. In one especially damaging clip, Tony was heard instructing Mike to time illegal mercury use for when inspectors were working in other areas. After the guilty verdict, several jurors spoke anonymously about their decision. The evidence was just too strong to ignore, said one juror, a woman in her 40s. We did our best to separate the TV character from the actual person, but it was obvious there was a deliberate pattern of illegal activity. Another juror who had experience in the mining industry commented, knowing how mining works, I was stunned by how calculated it all was. This wasn't accidental or due to ignorance. This operation was designed from the ground up to dodge environmental laws for profit. The harm done to the Yukon's waterways is beyond measure. The case has sent shock waves through the Yukon's mining community, where gold rush tourism has played a vital role in the local economy during the show's long run. Business owners in the area voiced mixed feelings about the verdict, recognizing the seriousness of the crimes, yet also worried about how the outcome might affect the region's reputation. Tony Beets put the Klondike back on the map for a lot of people, said Marion Clark, a longtime resident of Dawson City. The show brought tourism and attention to our area, but we can't support the harm that's been done to our land. Mining is our way of life, but it must be done responsibly with respect for the environment. As Tony and Mike Beets begin serving their sentences, uncertainty surrounds the fate of their vast mining operations and equipment. Prosecutors stated that a separate civil case will determine what happens to the family's assets, with much of it expected to be sold off to finance environmental cleanup efforts in the damaged areas. For Discovery Channel, the convictions represent an extraordinary crisis for one of its cornerstone shows. The network has confirmed that Gold Rush will continue with its remaining mining teams, though many in the industry question whether the show can maintain its appeal without the larger-than-life presence of the Beets family. Chris Jummett, the well-liked former carpenter turned gold room operator featured alongside various teams on the series, echoed a sentiment many cast members share when he was approached outside the courthouse. "This is a tragic day for everyone involved. There are no winners here. The land has been harmed, lives have been upended, and an entire industry full of hard-working, honest people is now under a cloud." As Tony and Mike Beets were led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, the elder Beets finally addressed the crowd. Turning to a courtroom filled with media, former co-workers, and spectators, he delivered a statement reminiscent of his TV persona, only without the usual bravado. "The Viking has fallen," he said, before disappearing through the doors that now separate him from the mining legacy he spent decades creating. For fans of Gold Rush, the convictions prompt a sobering reassessment of past episodes. What once appeared as triumphant moments in mining are now overshadowed by darker realities. Environmental advocacy groups have already begun reprocessing footage from the show, pairing it with evidence from the trial to educate the public on the importance of strict mining regulations. The case also brings tough questions to light about the role of reality TV producers in ensuring that the content they showcase and profit from is legal and ethical. Executives from various networks have called for industry-wide discussions aimed at creating stronger protocols to verify regulatory compliance in programs featuring resource extraction. Tony's other children, Kevin and Monica Beets, who were frequently seen on the show working with the family, were not charged. Investigators found no evidence that they participated in the decisions leading to illegal activities. In a joint statement, they expressed disbelief at the scale of the violations and asked for privacy as they consider their personal and professional futures. As the Yukon gears up for a mining season without two of its most high-profile figures, the effects of the Beets convictions continue to ripple through the sector. Local officials have announced stricter inspection measures for all mining operations. Meanwhile, Discovery Channel has hired additional compliance officers to monitor activities at filming locations, even when cameras aren't rolling. The historic life sentences handed to Tony and Mike Beets serve as a powerful warning about the gravity of environmental crimes and the dangers of assuming fame offers protection from justice. Once known for calling himself the king of the Klondike, Tony Beets now faces a stark reality, not as a mining legend, but as federal inmate number 8867539. The empire he built has been swept away by the very justice he believed he could outrun.